We're joined by Casey McGuigan. My name is Jason Barris. I'm the Senior VP of Developer Tools and Infragistics, and Casey's been with the Reveal product since day one as the product manager and product owner. So she will be on the chat answering questions. So bring all the questions that you have. We got a bunch of folks online today. So if you have embedded analytics questions, Reveal questions, whatever it might be, we are here to help. So today's agenda, the myths versus the truths of embedded analytics. We're going to spend most of the time demoing. We really just like to show off the product and kind of get it into your hands so you have a feel for what it can do for you. And really today is about how easy it is to get started. So you're going to see in today's demo that in a few steps and a few clicks, you can be up and running with dashboards in your application. So we're going to look at the myths, we're going to demo, and then we will wrap it up. As usual, for some housekeeping, marketing will send over slides tomorrow in an email. So you will get the slides of this presentation as well as the recording of today's demos. So you'll get that in your email tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. You can share it with your coworkers. So basically, this is the gist of the presentation here: embedded analytics, myths versus reality. We've done so many webinars in the last maybe 18 months on embedded analytics, the benefits of embedded analytics, how it can help you drive a data-driven culture, how it can save you tens of thousands of dollars in task switching between one app to another app, maybe just to look at a dashboard, to get more information, to make better decisions. So we kind of boiled it down into a few myths that are common. And you know what? The sad thing is, some of them are actually true. With Reveal, they're not true, right? So, or I'm sorry, it's kind of a double negative, but you'll get it when I'm talking about it. And the first one is really around pricing, costly and unpredictable. So that is a myth when you're talking about Reveal. The reality is we are affordable and we have a fixed price. So you pay the same exact amount every year for the app that you're embedding Reveal in, no matter how many users of the app, no matter how many people are hitting the SDK, which is different than something like Power BI. And we hear this all the time. We have a lot of customers that switch from Power BI to Reveal because Power BI is on a per user or an Azure usage cost. So while in the beginning it may look free, oh, we have it part of our E5 subscription or E3 subscription for Microsoft 365, once you really start using it, the dollars start ticking up. And you could end up easily in the thousands of dollars, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars per year just to do dashboards for your enterprise. And quite frankly, that's not worth it when there are solutions like Reveal that are a fraction of that cost. So we had a customer and they didn't have many users. It was like 100 users. And Power BI was getting to be like $6,000 or $8,000 per month of usage because they were refreshing dashboards a lot. They had a lot of data. It was just crazy numbers. When you start thinking about $75,000 to $100,000 a year just to use something like Power BI, it's out of control. And that's the same thing for other solutions out there, Looker, SciSense, et cetera. They're not going to offer you a fixed price. The second area is time consuming. I'm going to completely dispel that today in the demo you're going to see. You'll have an up and running dashboard, server and client, in less than 10 minutes. And we have so many great docs and samples that will help you do this that it's just going to be a breeze for you to get started. And we're here to help. This is what we do for a living, and we love to talk to you about your scenarios and how we can fit into those scenarios and how we can make your applications more beautiful, more useful, and help drive that data-driven culture in your organization. The third myth is around data scientists are the only ones that use data. Not anymore. Gartner, I just was doing some research on Gartner the other day, and I read a paper that said something like 80% of business users are now in the sort of area where they have to create technology and use data to create technology and use or drive decision making in their organization. So the numbers are skyrocketing. There's so much information out there about how every single business user needs access to data. They need to drive a data-driven culture, and how that helps organizations actually drive revenue. So we've done webinars in the past around McKinsey surveys and other surveys where companies do 28% better, public companies 28% better if they have a data-driven culture. They make millions more dollars per year if they have a data-driven culture. Employees feel empowered if they have a data-driven culture. And this goes to that easy self-service, give me the data when I need it sort of organization. And then finally, that it's only for large enterprises. That is completely not true. The big thing about large enterprises is they buy every BI tool, right? They have everything on the planet, plus things we've probably never heard of. But everything from a one-person organization all the way up to, a couple 100,000 or whatever the largest companies in the world, like IBM and car automakers, they all need access to data. Everyone has data. Either they need access to external data. Maybe it's a marketing team in an enterprise or at a small business, and they need Google Analytics data. And they need to look at how leads are converting into paying customers, or you have your own data that you've been collecting for years and years and years, and now you want to repurpose that, put it up in dashboards and start making these better decisions. Or you want to add value add into an existing piece of software that you sell to the market and offer BI as a competitive differentiator. And that's another area where we have a lot of customers using Reveal today, where they need competitive advantage. They might have a WPF or an Angular application, and they want to do a big product release. Hey, let's do a big release this year. What can we do that is going to have a low impact on our code churn, but have a huge impact on the customer side? Let's look at embedded BI and analytics, and that's what happens. One of the things that we just were also looking at was the cost per employee of switching between different applications throughout the day. And there's research that shows that every single person, including yourself, but in your organization, loses up to 30 days a year in aggregate switching between applications. That's what we're trying to solve here. Don't go from your business app and have to jump over into some SaaS-based tool to look up data and then somehow reassociate it back with what you were doing. You lose time, you lose money. It's unbelievable, actually. So, so I hope that you kind of get a little gist of where you might have been doubting that you should think about embedded BI because of these myths, but really you can dispel those myths pretty quickly. And if anyone has any other myths or worries, pop them into the chat and we will answer them. So what I'm going to do now is walk you through embedding BI in your application. This is end to end. So we're going to create a server, we're going to create a client, and we will be wrapped up. Let's see if we can get it done in 10 minutes, but it's going to be maybe like 13 minutes because I'm going to show a few other things. So the first thing is everyone here needs to go to revealbi.io. Revealbi.io is our homepage, but it's also where you download the SDK. So Reveal ships as a software development kit. We are not a SaaS-based app like Looker, for example, that would just be embedded in your app via a hyperlink, like via an iframe. No, this is actually an SDK. The SDK has properties, methods, events. It has a server and a client, etc. Now, the reason you need the server and the client is if you're doing web. If you're doing WPF, it's all just an assembly, right? If you're doing a WPF application or a Windows Forms application, it's just a DLL, and that has everything you need. The first thing you want to do, though, is download the SDK. You'll fill out a bunch of information. The SDK will download, and then you will install it. Once you install it, it goes to a folder on your hard drive here. Let me move over my my computer or my what is this thing called? File Explorer, Windows 11. I think they always change the names here. But what happens is inside of users, public documents, infragistics, there is a reveal folder. If you're using Mac, it's going to be very similar path, whatever the Mac folder is for your documents, and the same on Linux. So this is going to be able to be used on a Linux machine, a Mac machine, or a Windows machine. I'm using Windows today just because I am. I also use a Mac, so I've done all of this on both. But in the reveal folder, you've got the SDK folder. Here you've got a complete Visual Studio sample of an ASP.NET application that's using an ASP.NET Core backend with MVC that's integrating BI. We also have a WPF and a Windows Forms application, and it shows you the end-to-end on how to use the product. We're not going to look at these today necessarily. What I'm going to show you in here is important folders that you need to know about. The first one is this JS folder. The JS folder has the JavaScript library, which is the client-side SDK for Reveal. So this client-side SDK has all the stuff that you need to build the application in Angular, React, Blazor, it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you today just pure web component, and I'm going to show you Blazor today. So you'll see both or two of the multiple. So you need to know where this JavaScript file is at. And then the other thing that you need to know about is inside of sample, we can go to the up media sample. There's a dashboards folder. Inside the dashboards folder, we have some sample dashboards. Now, I'm going to show you what these inside of these RDash folders look like when we build the server. But essentially, these are a zip file that has a JSON definition of the dashboard. The dashboard gets created in any number of ways. We have a product called Slingshot that allows you to create dashboards. You can use the Reveal SDK to create dashboards. It doesn't really matter. These dashboards happen to be pointing to files that are up in the cloud that are Excel files. But we have about 30 data sources, including SQL Analytics, SQL Server Analytics, Azure SQL, Google BigQuery, you name it. We have it. All of the Google data sources that a marketing department would need, for example, to do analytics on leads and things like that. All the big data connectors, all the AI connectors, so you can do, Azure ML, whatever you want, really. But these are some good-looking, nice dashboards. So you just need to know this dashboards folder, and that's basically it. We are also going to look at the help today. And to get to the help, if I'm on the Reveal homepage, you can scroll all the way to the bottom here. This is how I get to it anyway. It's probably right up on the main menu as well. But I just go to documentation and I go to developer docs. I'm always using the .NET Core SDK. So here is where I would just select the SDK for the web. Everything I'm going to show you is in these help files. The other thing that you should know about, in fact, I'm going to copy this in to the chat so everyone has it. I'll paste this out to everyone. And then the other thing that you need to know about is all of the samples that are up on GitHub. So on the Reveal BI GitHub repository, you've got WPF samples, Java samples, Angular samples. Today, I'm going to show you just a web component. So it's a pure JavaScript example, but you've got all kinds of things here, like how to do dashboard filtering in code, how to load dashboards, how to save, how to do theming. All these things are available to you. The other thing that you have in here as well, if I go to, let's see, I think it was loading dashboards from a file. There's just additional information in some of the README. So I'm going to create my own server today. So I'll be running localhost. But we also have a public server that you can just point to. And I'm going to show you how this works as well. So let's go ahead and get started. There's also another, if I go to samples, JavaScript, let's see, just loading dashboards, this guy here. No, I'll remember what it is, but I also have some code snippets that you can use as well, because I'm going to use those code snippets today myself. So I'm going to go to my desktop here, and I'm just going to do a new folder, and I'm going to call this webinar demo. And in the webinar demo folder, I'm going to add another folder, and I'm going to call this folder just assets. And in the assets folder, I am going to add that JavaScript library that I just showed you. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to SDK. Actually, let's go to reveal. Yep, SDK, web, JS, client. And I'm going to copy this guy. Let's copy him, minimize, and I'm going to paste it into the assets folder. And now I've got my client-side JavaScript library. And I'm going to right click here. I'm going to say new text document. And this is just going to be called index.html. Yes. Now let's open this guy in Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open him with Visual Studio Code. And I'll slide this guy over. And I have basically an empty file here. Now, the code snippets that I talked about, if I do a Control E, I'll show you what I'm doing here in terms of the code snippets. I have these on GitHub, and I'll paste it in so you can use them. But essentially, I just created a bunch of code snippets for what we need to very quickly create this example. So, and if you've never used Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio, code snippets are great. They just make your life easier. So everything's prefixed with reveal. So here I just want to create a basic HTML file. So in this case, I've just got my base HTML file. It's got head, it's got body, and we're ready to go. Now we have a dependency on a file called quill.js. And so I got to do two things. I'm going to insert the CSS link for quill.js. And then the other thing that I need to do is insert some of the JavaScript dependencies, including the reveal client file that I just mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead, whoops, let me Control Z that, and I'm going to add my JavaScript dependency links. So there's 4 dependencies here. We use jQuery very minimally. And in fact, a build that comes out probably in the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to remove the jQuery dependency. You have your quill.js. We use day.js for some date filtering. And then this is that reveal file that I just added. Now, keep in mind, I added this in .assets, and it is, whoops, Control Z, and let's get rid of reveal. So it's in the assets folder, and it's infragistics reveal.js, like so. So those are my dependencies. Now, in order to render my dashboard, I actually need to insert a div. And this div container is where basically you will place, whatever you're trying to load. In this case, I'm going to load a sales dashboard. And so I've got basically taking up the full screen, which is just this simple style calc, and that's it. And then finally, the last thing I need to do is load up that JavaScript function, which actually tells reveal to activate, go to the server, get the dashboard I'm asking for, and then stick it inside the div. So the reveal SDK, all the power is in this JavaScript file. Then the reveal SDK has this reveal SDK settings, which you can then say, hey, go to this URL because that's where all my dashboards are at. Or set properties like the font or the theme, or enable new charts. So we have some new visualizations in reveal. I'm actually doing something special here and setting a property. Remember, this is an SDK, so I'm activating that. I want to make sure that all of our fonts are loaded from the reveal SDK before I render anything. I'm telling it to load the dashboard called sales. So RV dashboard load dashboard, a function, sales. This isn't pointing to some URL that I have to embed an iframe. and then take that dashboard and stick it inside of the reveal view. And that's it. So if I right click and I think this is auto saving, we'll go ahead and save it. If I right click and view this in my default browser, what you'll see is like magic, we have a dashboard. So this dashboard is actually up at this URL, samples.revealbi.io, up media, backend, reveal API. So when you have when you're building this yourself, you have a server. So you're running Node.js, you're running Java, you're running .NET Core. And on that server, you're doing authentication, authorization, maybe doing some whatever you want to do. But the point is there's a server piece, and then this is the client piece that you do in JavaScript and TypeScript and Blazor, React, Web Component, etc. So I just did this as a Web Component app, a pure JavaScript app, and it lit this up. Now with this, you get all of the dashboard features. So for example, I can change what the dashboard looks like. All this is on the client side. I can do things like client side filters, like so, apply, and the dashboard gets updated. I can do date time filters. But what's even cooler is I can go into edit mode and I can actually do self-service dashboard creation and editing. So in this case, we've got new versus renewal sales by month and by month and day here. We're doing this by sum, but I really want to show the average just because I want to demonstrate how it works. And let's show average here like so. And now this updates a little funky, probably because, yeah, I've got some settings here. Let's go ahead and set my minimum bounds to auto. And now my average data just shows up just like that. So I'm constructing this dashboard. If I just want to get rid of new sales and just do renewals, there's my average renewal sales per month. I can click the checkbox. I can put this back down. I click the checkbox. Now this is just automatically saved. I don't have to do anything. Now let's go ahead and let's say I want to see everything. So I can reapply my filter and I have everything here. So this is how the SDK works. And from your perspective, anything in an overflow, you can modify, hide, show, change. So let's say you don't want editing, you can remove that in the SDK with a property setting. Let's say you don't want exporting, you can remove that. But let's say you do want exporting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to export this guy to PowerPoint. So now it's doing a little work. There's a server piece and a client piece here that it kind of pulls together. But we get this dialogue eventually, yep, that shows up and it's saying, hey, which one of these do you actually want in your PowerPoint? What descriptions and titles do you want? What style of branding do you want? Do you want to do some custom branding? You know, it's all up to you how this actually works. So now I'll just leave it all there and I'll say export to PowerPoint. And this is actually created a PowerPoint file for me. Let's move this guy over and you can see that now I've got a PowerPoint file with all of this stuff. And I challenge you to build all this yourself faster. It's impossible. We have a white paper that shows it costs about $700,000 and I think 12 or 16 months to build this yourself. But what I want to do now is not use this server. I want to create my own server. So we do that in this demo with ASP.NET Core. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to start and I'm going to open up Visual Studio and everything's opening up. Oh, good. It's right here. I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to create a new ASP.NET Core Web API. So I'm going to click next, and we're going to call this Reveal Webinar Demo 15, just to make it unique. Take all of the defaults, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Now, if you remember, we installed the SDK. The server SDK is distributed as a NuGet package. So on your machine now, there's a NuGet package. But the best thing to do is to use the NuGet packages that we have up on NuGet.org because they're always going to be the most up to date. So in this case, I'm going to click the browse button and I'm going to type in Reveal BI, hit enter, and I'm going to install the ASP.NET Core NuGet package. Yes, okay. I accept all of the defaults and it is installed and it's ready to go. So Now this application has the SDK installed. And if we go to packages, we'll see Reveal SDK core. Now I want to go to program.cs. This is the simple, simplified APIs that we get with .NET 6 and higher. So everything is in the program.cs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say using, what am I using? I'm using the reveal.sdk. So I want to light up now this application with the Reveal SDK so I can actually start to use it. And the actual functions and everything in order to get your application to know about them is done through the builder services add controller .add reveal. So here I want to add reveal. And at this point, I'm basically ready to go, except remember, I need dashboards, right? So I'm going to the server to pull in these dashboards. So let's right click. I'm going to add a new folder. And in my new folder, which is going to be called dashboards, like so, I want to add those sample dashboards that I showed earlier. So I'm going to add existing items. Cool. Let's go to Infragistics, Reveal, SDK, web, sample, blah, 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 dashboards. And I'm just going to add these guys in. All right. So now I've got these dashboards. These are the same ones that are up at the server that we just used. They're up in the cloud, but now this is local. Remember, this is my local host. Now, if I run this, I'm just going to hit run. I'm not going to do anything else. Just going to hit run. We're technically ready to go. I could deploy this to my server and it will load and save dashboards. So now, because it's .NET 6, I've got my Swagger API. There is a get function, which we expose, which allows me to get the dashboard. So I'm just going to type in marketing, or actually we'll do sales because sales is what we saw earlier. I'm going to click execute. And then what you're going to see is that it actually went and it got the dashboard. This is the JSON file that's in the R dash, which is representing everything that's in that dashboard, all the functionality. And what I wanted to show you here is this is where that data source is. It's actually a Excel file up in the cloud. So now, how do I use this in that client that I just did? Here we've got localhost 7269. All right, so let's go ahead and copy this. I'm going to leave my server running. I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to replace this with this. Whoops. And that's all I need to do. And if there's someone who's really, really sharp and knows all about doing localhost and JavaScript debugging on the same machine, type it into the chat what's going to happen next, because it's not going to work. But I'm going to right click anyway, and I'm going to open this in my default browser, and nothing happened. So what do you do? Because you're a developer, you go to the developer tools and you're like, why isn't my thing showing up here? Access to HTTP request. Aha. Origin, no access control allow origin. So that's the problem. When you are using localhost, cross origin resource scripting does not work. So what do? Well, if you were reading the docs, the reveal docs, you would know that in the setting up server help doc, it says, if you're doing this locally, you need to add a CORS policy. So let's just copy this code straight up. We're not going to change a thing. I'm going to stop this. And I am going to add this before builder.build. I'm going to create this policy called allow all. I'm going to allow basically any header, any method, any origin. And then what I need to do is before use authorization, I need to tell it to actually use it. And this basically tells you exactly what to do here. You know, just use that code. And it says in this example, after use redirection and before use authorization. And that's a Microsoft rule, has nothing to do with us. That's all I need to do. Save, run. Now I can use this local host locally. Let's go back to the browser. Let's go back here and let's just hit refresh. And like magic, we are using a local file from localhost to actually render the dashboard. So here, if we are looking at our network, actually that's way too big. That's way too big. Let's see if we can get this bigger. No, I guess it's not going to let me show that. But anyway, beautiful, right? I mean, basically, it took a little longer because I talked too much, but we have a local server, a local client, and we've created all of this with at max maybe 25 lines of code to embed BI in your application. And before we jump back, I want to show you another just example. So here I've got this other example, and this is using Blazor. So if you're doing Blazor, and by the way, we have samples for Angular, React, Blazor, Java backend, Node.js backend, ASP.NET Core backend, all of this, right? We have everything. If you need something, let us know. This is the same code that I used in my JavaScript file. All I did was added it to a JavaScript file here called revealview.js. And then in my Razor file, so the Razor file is essentially, in this case, I kind of did something cool. I have a cloud-based JSON file, which has a bunch of dashboard names, but those dashboard names are up in the cloud. So I'm loading up a screen with a bunch of dashboards, and I'm going to click those dashboards, and I'm invoking my load reveal view JavaScript file or function and telling it to get the return value back into the reveal view. So this is the div that we did. So all this is the same. Now, if I run this guy, and this is pretty slick, I have in my JSON definition in the cloud, I got like a bunch of images of dashboards. And so here's a bunch of dashboards. And when I click this guy, so let's click retail inventory management. It went to the cloud, it got the retail inventory management dashboard, and it loaded it up just nicely. So again, it's the same thing. It's a couple lines of code, and all of these are legit, valid dashboards up in the cloud. So if you want any of these samples, just go to GitHub/Reveal BI, or Reveal BI, and you have everything there. If you have any questions, pop them into the chat, and we are going to wrap this up because we are essentially out of time for today. Let me go ahead and run our PowerPoint again. Oops, where's my PowerPoint? PowerPoint, wake up. My PowerPoint's locked up. Let's close that window. Let's go back to PowerPoint. Come on, PowerPoint, what's going on? There we go. All right. And let's just jump down to the final slides here. So we want you to try out Reveal. Hopefully today you saw how easy it is to embed Reveal in your application. Go to revealbi.io, download SDK. That's that first URL I showed you today. I showed you the help docs, showed you how easy it was to basically copy paste code, put it right into your application. Go to GitHub for everything from samples to code snippets to everything. The docs, everything's up on GitHub as well. And really you can drive these data-driven culture with an amazing experience in your organization and save up to, research shows, 30 days per year by avoiding task switching and embedding BI and analytics in your application. So please shoot us an email if you have any questions, or you want to follow up, you want a deep dive demo, if you want to get us in front of your team, we're happy to do that. My email is Jason B. Casey is C. McGuigan. And with that, we will see you at the next webinar. Thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate your time.